back to Anida's Home Cooking. Today I'm going to show you how I make homemade sushi. So we love eating sushi. The whole family loves it. My husband, kids, we all love it. So I do make sushi at home quite a bit. So I'm just going to show you my recipe and how I do it. So I went ahead and already made the sushi rice because you do need this to cool. So I'm just going to go over how I made the sushi rice. So what I like to use, I use medium grain rice. So normally sushi is made with sushi grade or sushi short grain rice, short grain. But I use medium because it's almost the same and it's a lot cheaper and you can get a pretty big bag for a lot less. So, and I will also be using some rice wine vinegar, sugar, mirin, which is a sweetened sake. So this is a sweet Japanese cooking wine. And if you don't have this, you can go ahead and skip it. And some salt. So what I do is I take 2 cups of rice and I soak it for about 30 minutes. Drain it, and then I put 2 cups of fresh water back in there. And I go ahead and throw it into the rice cooker and let it cook. So once it cooks, once it beeps, turn it off and just let it sit for about 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, I pour in like these ingredients. So this I'll keep ready on hand. So I'll do 4 tablespoons of rice wine vinegar, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 2 tablespoons of mirin if you are using it, and 2 teaspoons of salt. So this I'll have written in the description below. But yeah, so once after 10 minutes after the rice has been cooked, you want to just have your mixed ingredients, all of these, pour it into it and just mix the rice. So you want to just keep mixing it, and then you just close it back up and let it cool, and then you'll have your cooled rice, sushi rice, ready to go. So this we will be using once we start rolling our sushi. Okay, so just keep it in there until I'm ready to go. All right, so while I have the rice cooling, like I said, I made it before, so it's pretty much cooled and ready to go. So I'm going to go ahead and get my first filling ready. Today I'll be making a spicy tuna. So like I mentioned before, we usually get our canned tuna from Costco. So I have a 7-ounce can here. That's the net weight, and then drained it's going to be about 6 ounces. But you can use the regular ones you get from the grocery stores, which are just a little bit smaller. So the size doesn't matter because you're going to make it to your liking. So this is what you see here. I drained it really well, so you can see that it's really nicely drained and very dry. All right, so this I usually eyeball as much mayo as I want. So it depends on how creamy you want it. So I'm gonna just, eyeball it as I go. So I have about 3 heaping tablespoons. Let's do 4 for now. Okay. And this is, spicy mayo. So yeah, so we're gonna be using some sriracha. Okay, so about 3 tablespoons for now. So I'm going to go ahead and start mixing it up and seeing how it looks. So I just eyeball this every time I make it. Just depends on how creamy you want it and how spicy you want it. So you can just play around with it and just make it according to your taste and liking. All right, so that looks pretty good. Alright, so I like to add about a teaspoon or so of sugar into this just to balance out the flavors. Okay, let's do about 1.5 teaspoons for now. So I'm going to be tasting it and tasting and testing for the seasonings. I also like to put in about half a teaspoon of sesame oil just for some extra flavor. Okay. And I do like to put in a touch of vinegar also. Okay. So let's start with about half a teaspoon also. So I like using a little bit of the sugar and the rice vinegar because usually sushi is made with the Japanese mayo. So the Japanese mayo, if you've never tried it, it does taste a little different. It is a little bit more tangier. Has a little tanginess, a little sweetness. So it is a little different from the American mayo. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and give this a little taste, see if I need anything else. All right, so I am going to add a little bit more sriracha because it is spicy tuna after all. And I usually like to add about 2 tablespoons of green onions into this. So I don't have any on hand right now, but if you have a little bit of green onions chopped up finely, you can throw that in just for some extra flavor. All right, so this is just an optional step. It's not necessary. I'm going to be making a little bit of extra spicy mayo sauce just to drizzle on top at the end once I make the sushi. So just take about a couple of tablespoons of mayo. So you don't need much. Like I said, this is just a drizzle right on the top, and this is an optional step. It's not necessary. All right, so I'm just going to put I put some mayo in there, put some sriracha, just a little splash of rice wine vinegar, and I'm just going to put a teaspoon of water for now. Like I said, this is just depending on how much you're making. You just want to make it loose enough to drizzle on top. So actually looks okay. I'll probably just put a touch more of water just to loosen it up. All right, so this consistency looks good. I went ahead and put this into a little mini squeeze bottle, so this will just be easier to just, drizzle it on top. But if you don't have a squeeze bottle, you can just spoon it on, or just take a fork or something and just drizzle it on at the end. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and keep this to the side while I move on to the next step. So now I'm going to be making my second filling. So this is going to be a Japanese omelette called Tamagoyaki. So tamago, I think, usually means egg. So this is like a egg roll or Japanese egg omelette. Okay, and these are the ingredients I will be using. So I'm going to be using some dashi. So this is dashi powder to make dashi stock. So dashi is a fish stock. So that's what they use for making a miso soup, and a variety of their cuisine uses dashi broth. So I bought this from Amazon, but you can also get it from your nearest Asian store. And it's called dashi powder. And I will be using some soy sauce, some mirin, which is a sweetened sake. If you don't have this, you can go ahead and skip it and make it without it. I'm going to be using some sugar and some salt. And I have some water here to make my broth. All right, so I'm going to be making 2 eggs today. So let's get that beaten up. Okay, and into this I'm going to put 1 teaspoon of soy sauce. This is going to be 3/4 teaspoon. Oops, that's 2 and 3. All right, I'm going to be using 1.5 teaspoons of sugar. And for the dashi, I'm going to just eyeball it. So what I like to do is just put a little bit of this dashi granules in here. So just depends on how much of that dashi flavor you like. So I'm going to pour in some water to just get this dissolved. Okay, so these easily dissolve in water. Okay, so that's 2 tablespoons of the broth. So that's 1 tablespoon. And then I just do another tablespoon of regular water. Okay, let's get that mixed up. Okay, and I almost forgot, we're also going to be putting a bit of salt in here. So about 1/8 of a teaspoon. get that nicely beaten and mixed together. Okay, so now I have my pan heating up. I put it to about medium, and I'm just going to wait for it to heat up. Okay, so it's been a couple minutes, so it should be heated up nicely. So I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in here just so that the omelet doesn't stick when we're making it. So traditionally, I think the Japanese people use a rectangular or square pan to make these, but I'm just using a regular round pan today. I'm going to go ahead and put my egg in here. All right, I'm just going to turn the heat down a little bit because I don't want it to get too brown. Just going to wait for this to now cook up. So I flipped it over once more, and now I'm just going to just get this rolled up. Okay, so I'm just going to keep that there. Okay, so now time for the fun part. Let's assemble our sushi rolls. So before you get started, you want to make sure you have everything right next to you. So we're going to need a bowl with some water. So we're going to use that to dip our hands to get this rice onto the sushi. The nori sheet or roasted seaweed. So this is what we will be using. Roasted seaweed, also known as nori. Okay? And then we have our sushi rice here. We have some black sesame seeds here for flavor and decor. And we have our spicy tuna, which we will be starting with. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start assembling the sushi. So I have my nori sheet here, my roasted seaweed. And I'm using a pair of gloves, but it's not necessary. You can just make sure your hands are really clean before you start. So I'm going to go ahead and dip my hands into the water just to get that nice and wet before I get into the rice. So this helps prevent the rice from sticking to your hands and helps to spread the rice easily onto the nori sheet. So each time I grab more rice, I dip my hands into the rice. And you want to just spread it. So it's not necessary to get it, having to cover it corner to corner, but you do want to make sure that it's flattened out as much as possible and get any bald areas covered. Okay, and then I just like to dip it once more and just get that rice flattened onto the sheet so that it doesn't come off and that it sticks nicely. Okay, so now I'm going to use some of the black sesame seeds, sprinkle them on. You can put as much or as little as you like, or leave them out if you don't like them. Okay, so now I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to get my tuna filling onto this. So you can put as much or as little as you want. So I'm just going to flatten this out so that we don't have one side that's bigger than the other. Great, so I'm going to go ahead and start rolling. So I just use my hands to roll. This is what I'm used to. I start off using my hands and I just continued using my hands. But if you do have one of those sushi rollers and you know how to use them, go ahead and use that. So you want to go ahead and take your time. You don't want to rush this. You want to make sure it's nice and tight. Roll and make sure the sides don't squeeze out as you're rolling. Make sure you're getting it as even as you can. Okay. Give it a nice roll at the end. All right, there you go. And just move this onto a plate. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and make my next sushi roll, which is the Tamagoyaki. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this omelet in half. So I'm going to be making 2 rolls out of this. Okay, let's keep it there. All right, so I don't think I mentioned, you want to make sure you start off with the rough side of the seaweed. So there's a soft, shiny side, a smoother side, and a rougher side. So the rougher side is what you want to put your rice on because that's going to help it stick to the sheet. So I dipped my hands in water, grab some rice. So you have to remember and make sure that the rice is cool enough, because if the rice is hot or pretty warm, it's going to start wilting the seaweed or nori sheet. Dip my hands in some water, pat this down. Sprinkle on my seeds. Okay, get my other egg onto this. And I forgot to mention, you can put other vegetables in with your sushi, maybe some cucumber or avocado. So avocado in the spicy tuna roll would be really tasty. There you go. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and cut these up. Okay, so cut it in half. Okay, so you get 8 pieces by cutting it this way. And when you're cutting, you want to make sure you don't squeeze it too hard or the filling will squeeze out. Okay, so now I'm going to get these plated. I'm going to go ahead and cut up my Tamagoyaki sushi roll. So I'm going to go ahead and plate this one up. So now that everything is plated, you can serve it as is, but I like to get a little fancy and make it look more restaurant style. So I'm going to go ahead and drizzle that sauce I made earlier, the spicy mayo sauce. All right, so drizzle some over here. Okay, drizzle some on this. This is the spicy tuna that we're doing. All right, so now this is unagi sauce, or also known as eel sauce. So I have a recipe which I use and I've been making it for years, but recently I found this at the grocery store and I thought I'd give it a try. So it does do the job, but it's not quite as tasty as the one that I make from scratch. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and drizzle some of this sauce on there. This actually just makes it look fancier and give it a little extra flavor, a little extra creaminess. All right, so there you go. It looks pretty, it looks delicious. So I actually made these sushi rolls today to give to my nephew because today is his birthday. So I thought I'd surprise him and drop these off on his doorstep and just give him a little birthday surprise. So today I made spicy tuna and tamagoyaki, so which is the Japanese omelette sushi rolls. But you can get creative with these. You can have fun with them. You can actually buy some imitation crab legs and put some cucumber and avocado in there and make yourself a California roll. Or you can buy some smoked salmon and cream cheese and some cucumber and make yourself a Philadelphia roll. Or if you want to do vegetarian, you can also do cucumber, avocado, maybe throw some carrots in there. So you can mix and match, make whatever variety you want. And I hope you guys enjoyed this recipe, this video. I hope you get inspired and try to make some of these recipes that I've been posting. And please like the video, please subscribe and share. And I hope to see you guys in the next video. Thanks.